In today's video, I want to talk about the quadratic formula. Now, the quadratic formula comes from this basic equation right here. ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, that's our starting point for finding the quadratic formula. Now, what does the quadratic formula do? Well, it's a formula where I can substitute in the values for a, b, and c and figure out what x is equal to. Okay, so I could have any values of a, b, and c and find out what x is equal to. And the purpose of this video isn't to prove the quadratic formula, although we could. The purpose of this video is just to show you how to use the quadratic formula. So what is the quadratic formula? Well, if I'm trying to find out what x is when my function is equal to 0, here's the quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of b, or negative b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. And there you have it. So now if you have any quadratic equation, you can figure out what x is when that equation is equal to 0. It's kind of nice. So let's do an example here. Let's see, 3x squared plus, let's do plus 9x plus 6 equals 0. Okay? So here is my equation. Now, what are a, b, and c? That's the first question you should be asking. Well, a is equal to, right? A is equal to 3, b is equal to 9, and c is equal to 6. So we have all of our values for a, b, and c, and now we just substitute those values in to the quadratic formula. Okay? So x equals the opposite, right? Negative b. So the opposite of 9 is negative 9. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 9 squared, minus 4 times a is 3 times c is 6, all divided by 2 times a. Okay, so let's simplify this. Well, we want to start in the square root, so we have negative 9 plus or minus the square root. Maybe I can write what I change in orange. So 9 squared is 81 minus, okay, 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 6 is 72. And then that is divided by 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay, x equals negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 72 is 9 divided by 6. That's the same. Okay, get maybe a little bit more room here. Maybe even, there we go. Okay, so the square root of 9, x equals negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 9 is 3 divided by 6. Now, let's look at what we can do here. Okay? Because I have this plus or minus, that means I can split into 2 different directions with this problem. Okay? One direction would be the plus sign. Negative 9, x equals negative 9 plus 3 divided by 6. Or I could go in the minus direction. Negative 9 minus 3 divided by 6, right? X could be either of those things. Remember, like when we talked about the zero product property and we have the cat and we don't know, We don't know which of these values x will be, but x could be either of them. So negative 9 plus 3, negative 9 plus 3 is negative 6 divided by 6. Negative 6 divided by 6 is negative 1. So x could be negative 1. Or negative 9 minus 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. So x could either be negative 1 or negative 2. X, maybe red. X equals negative 1 or negative 2. And there you have it. Okay, so there's your answer. And maybe you get something like, so let's just talk about, without going through the entire examples, let's talk about a few anomalies that could come up. You might have something like this. I don't know, we're just going to fill in random numbers. Negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 3. Okay, if you have something like this, right, we'd still split it off into 2. Negative 1 plus square root 13 over 3, or negative 1 minus the square root of 13 over 3. We don't know, we can't simplify the square root of 13, so either just leave it like this or type it in your calculator to get a decimal. So that's one option. Okay, so yeah, that's one kind of anomaly. Another anomaly you might see, what if you have like this, negative, or what if we could even have a positive number there? It doesn't always have to be negative. It could be 3 plus or minus the square root. What if we had like negative 16? Okay. Square numbers are never negative, right? Because if I have a number squared, a number times itself, either I have a positive number times a positive number, which is positive, or a negative number times a negative number, which is positive, right? So taking the square root of a negative number, that's not something that will give us a real solution. And we haven't talked about complex numbers yet. So here, your answer would be no real solutions. Okay, so that's one thing. Maybe one last anomaly that you might run into is at the very beginning, if you have an equation like this, what if you have like 2x squared minus 18 equals 0? Well, what do I put for b? There's no b. Well, exactly, there is no b. So here it would be a is 2, b is 0, and c is negative 18. Okay, those are a few anomalies. There might be a few more, but I think those are the main ones that you would run into. Hope that this video helps you understand how to use the quadratic formula.